I just want to start off and say, excuse me, sorry, I am recovering from a cold, so if I cough or do this a lot, that's why. I want to take a minute and tell everyone thank you so much. It's been such an honor to serve everyone in this community for the past 7.5 years. Truly enjoyed it. Learned a lot. It's been a great experience. I've worked with some truly tremendous people. And people of this community, which I've really enjoyed. This is a fantastic community. Really live here in Cascade County. I say oftentimes it's unlike any other place that I've ever been to, any other place that I've ever lived. It seems to have just by far the best kind of blue-collar, hard-working people that kind of end up representing our community the most. I'm really grateful for that because it's kind of an old school community, and it's unlike any place that you'll ever find in our country. And I'm really grateful for that. And I just want to say thank you so much before I get started. So one of the things I want to kind of go over and cover is some of the things that we've accomplished. And I say we because the Office of the Sheriff is bigger than any one person. 110%. A lot of times, people look at the Office of the Sheriff as the sheriff does this, the sheriff does that. You know, if you see a marked patrol car out there on the road cruising around, it doesn't say deputy sheriff on it. It says sheriff. Ever notice that? And people oftentimes will say, "Well, the sheriff came to my house yesterday." You know, no, it likely wasn't me. It's a deputy that goes, and the reality of the Office of the Sheriff that's so great is it's the last elected law enforcement official in the United States that is, I should say, operational law enforcement. We do have the county attorney, which is law enforcement, but the thing that I love the most about it, and the reason I bring that up, is because it is a team of people, whether it is our deputies, whether it's our detention officers or civilians. But most of all, it's our community. Most of all, it is our community supporting us and our community out there taking care of us in so many different ways. And I don't just mean like from our Sheriff's Foundation and financially, I mean community support for law enforcement. We're very grateful for that. We're grateful to have that. When we talk about things that we've worked on at the Sheriff's Office, I'm kind of going to go from current back a little bit, and the reason is sometimes, and I'm going to try to go quick through this because I'm not going to sit here and just go through everything. There's no way I can go through everything we've accomplished, but probably one of the things that I'm proud of that's kind of a public facing thing that we do at the Sheriff's Office is we probably have the most comprehensive school safety program in the country here in Cascade County. And a lot of that was due to the people in our community and the people in this room for voting for a public safety mill levy, which helped fund that. We do add additional resources to that. But we've always believed at the Sheriff's Office that protecting our children comes first. Right after I got elected sheriff, we got on the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force as well. That Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force is really important. A lot of our pedophiles and people who prey on our children, and sometimes not just our children, we're also seeing it with internet crimes, not crimes against children, we're also seeing it with our senior citizens getting scammed. They're using the internet as a way to commit terrible crimes. And believe it or not, even in our hands-on cases that we investigate on a day-to-day basis, you will find that there's almost always a internet, cell phone element to that crime. So when we brought on that, it really helped us solve those crimes. I'm proud to say that we are now transitioning for all of our detectives to become Internet Crimes Against Children detectives because every case seems to touch cell phones, computers, some type of electronic device, and it's really important to help us in our investigations, protect our children, and protect our children in our schools. When I talk about protecting our children in our schools, I think a lot of times that gets used as a political buzzword. Some people talk about it and then they don't do anything about it. Or there'll be a school shooting and a lot of people out there want to take away our gun rights for a school shooting happen, an act of a person. There's no such thing as gun violence. A gun does not commit a crime, a person does. And
we, as a country, I think we need to make our children a priority for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're our children. We need to make them a priority because of that. Number two, we also need to do it because it will protect our rights. It stops the narrative of them being able to come after our constitutional rights if we just do the right thing and step up and protect our children. And I deeply believe in that. I deeply believe in it, and it terrifies me every time I see violence happen against children, especially in our schools, because it's so easily preventable. It's so easily preventable. And I've worked really hard with Senator Sheehy, and we have the SROs Act right now at the federal level, and that is going to help sustainability to fund not only the resources for our paid reserves here in Cascade County to protect our schools, but it's across our entire nation. And that's an affordable way to do that. How that's basically going to work is retired military and law enforcement will not have to pay federal income taxes on their retirement while signed up on that duty. If they stay for 10 years, they'll be vested and they get to keep that benefit until the day they die. And we're really excited about that. I'm also going to look at doing state legislation as well to help with that. Some of the other things that we accomplished in the last 7.5 years is we were able to not only secure more deputy sheriff positions, which was a key component to making your community safe, but we streamlined how we did things. We streamlined it so we got more people out on the street, more people answering 911 calls, and we were also able to get more detective positions. As we move into the future of law enforcement, it's becoming extremely more specialized. Criminals are getting smarter. Criminals are taking advantage of us in ways that we've really never seen before. I already brought up technology, but there's other ways in which they're doing it. We have artificial intelligence now. We have all these things, and so the detectives become kind of more the specialized investigators in that role, and that's really helped us with solving major crimes and making our public whole when we make arrests and protecting our victims. We created a violent crimes task force. That task force was stood up in 2019 after that triple homicide that occurred at the Emerald City Casino. Unfortunately, due to staffing at the police department, it's kind of slowed down. I am proud to say it is coming back right now. And we have a juvenile gang problem in our community. We do. We've seen that violence. And we have to aggressively attack that issue, and we have to stop that. We have to make sure that we aren't having kids killing kids out there, or anybody for that matter. But that's something that we're seeing a trend in our community, and we want to make sure that we stop that. We secured grant funding for mental health. This was a huge grant. Our state legislature and our governor was able to secure money for us to do this $1.5 million grant. This will bring back the mobile response teams that will be going out and responding to our mentally ill people in the community. Law enforcement officers are not social workers. And I think, CIT training is important for law enforcement officers to have. It's a skill set. But at the end of the day, that's not the skill set that law enforcement officers have. So it's better to do it in a team atmosphere where we have social workers and mental health professionals responding to these calls with us, and then we're able to take care of people who are in a mental health crisis versus are they actually doing criminal acts, because a lot of them aren't even aware, and if they could stand trial, they would be deemed unfit. And so I think that's a real important thing that we need to bring back to our community. However, the reason we get 1.5 million is $1 million of that is supposed to go to a brick and mortar crisis diversion center for mentally ill. And we're working on that right now. Indian Family Health Clinic is partnering with us on that. They went out for an RFP on that. And the goal is to create a in-custody crisis diversion center for people suffering from mental illness. So instead of them going to the jail and deteriorating worse, they have crisis intervention. So that's something that we're working on really hard. We've had a bunch of training so far, and again, we're working on getting that infrastructure built for our community. Some of the really cool things I want to kind of touch on, our detectives in 2021 solved the oldest cold case in United States history. That took a lot of hard work, and one of the cool parts about that is that was a legacy case over decades. I think it stretched. Well, the homicide occurred in 1956. I believe Eisenhower was president at that time for a little bit of, if we want to go back on that. So, several decades of law enforcement officers tirelessly working on that, and we were able to bring that to a conclusion. And one of the reasons we're able to bring it to a conclusion is our DNA technology, our forensic technology is really starting to become super advanced, and that was one of the ways we were able to do that. We did start a drug endangered children program with our criminal investigators. Drug endangered children is one of the things that's often overlooked, and it does take some specialized training. But the important thing I want everyone to understand about drug endangered children is that we have parents out there suffering from addiction, and sometimes due to their addiction and their drug use, they put their children in a lot of danger. And so we're able to come in and be able to assess those cases and get those children up and protect them, in some cases hold those parents accountable for the drug abuse that happens with their kids, because it often leads to abuse and child death due to these things. That's a lot of prevention that we want to bring to the community. Resident deputy program. This has been I thought this was going to be a lot easier than it ended up being. I'll be really honest. You go into it when I first ran in 2018. You go into it, you're like, everybody's going to buy into a resident deputy program. It's going to be super easy. It's been a struggle, but we're getting there. We now have a resident deputy in the Valley. We have a resident deputy in Cascade, and we have a resident deputy in Belton. One of the things we're able to do, we offered this to both Belton and Cascade, but we were able to secure it in Belton. Cascade didn't want to do it. We were able to secure housing for the deputies. The deputy can live there. The house actually belongs to the community of Belton, and they have a deputy in there, which is really helpful. We do have resident deputies do live in those areas, all those areas I named, but this one was actually secured by the house through a partnership we did with the town of Belton. We also have our school resource officer program in all three of those areas as well, which has been extremely successful. We do it a little different than the cities, and I kind of want to bring that up. In the city of Great Falls, and commonly SROs all across the country, they're involved in a lot of school type discipline of children in schools. We don't do that, and we kind of keep that separate. And the reason we do is we want to make clear distinction between like what's something the school discipline, what the school needs to handle, and something that rises to the level of the lieutenant college or somebody needs to be accountable because of committed a crime. And obviously when we're dealing with kids in schools, we're always trying to give them chances and stuff to make sure that they're we call it basically early intervention, trying not to make sure that they're not getting charged with too many crimes too early on in their life, and it's creating problems. But there are things that are public safety that have to be dealt with immediately. I will say this, when it comes to the criminal aspect of it, in or around the schools, it's oftentimes we're dealing with adults who are misbehaving in around the schools, and they're trying to do something negative to our children, and we have a lot of those cases as well. We created a new canine program. We have 2 canines in the field right now. Both of them are drug canines, and they do human tracking of fighting persons, not apprehension. And the reason we didn't go apprehension right away is apprehension dogs have a lot of liability, and they have a short lifespan due to their training and the constant. It's really hard on the dogs. It's hard on their hips. It's the training, the bites and stuff that you see on TV, all that stuff. And we wanted to build a program before we went into some type of apprehension dog. And we haven't made that switch yet, but our canine program has been very successful, and we're really proud of that. We revitalized our reserve deputy program. Those are volunteers that are deputies that work for us.
they have the full authority of the deputy sheriff. They're usually more, they're supervised a little differently, for obvious reasons. But we now have paid reserves as well. That was legislation that Senator Steve Fitzpatrick carried for us, that I helped draft. We can compensate our reserves. I would love it if they were all volunteers. That would be great. But the reality of it is we're not seeing volunteerism like we used to see and haven't seen in a while. And we want to utilize them in our school safety program is our goal. Let's see. I'm gonna pivot now towards the jail, kind of more jail-related stuff that we've done. Back in 2021, we were faced with some pretty tough circumstances. The state of Montana was paying us $69 a day for our state prison. Does everyone remember when we had a state prison in our facility? And what that means, really, and just so everyone understands, there was a section of our jail, a little over a third, that was designated as a state prison, meaning they're post-adjudicated, they're serving their time. And then the other two stations in the jail were pre-adjudication, if that makes sense, so pre-trial. What we were running into is the expenses were starting to outpace the revenues, and it was getting very difficult to manage. The other thing we were running into is the loss of bed space. So when we had a state prison in there, their contract was 2 inmates per bed on the state prison side. It was kind of irrelevant anyway because we couldn't use it, right? We couldn't house somebody. Like if we were arresting someone for DUI, you can't put them on the state prison side of the facility because it's literally a state prison. It has to be separate. But it was taking up a lot of room, and it was also not generating the revenues. And we have a revenue-based jail system in Cascade County. Now this was created clear back in probably 1998, 1997. The county commissioners at the time, when they created the new jail up there, were going to use the revenues from the state prison to help basically pay the bills on the other side, keep the power on, pay the contracts, and pay the wages. And it doesn't pay all of it. We get about $4 million a year roughly from tax dollars, from Cascade County tax dollars, but it's a $13 million a year operation. So we're having to turn around and create $9 million in revenue to make the run and pay everybody and keep the lights on and pay the contractors. So what happened was the Biden administration made a ruling that they would no longer allow federal inmates to be housed in a private prison. So Shelby had a federal contract. So what we were able to do was you had the U.S. Marshals, you had Montana DOC, and you had us. So I reached out to Director Brian Lucan at the time, who's now our U.S. Marshal, as of yesterday. I was able to reach out to him and I said, hey, can we work on the prisoner swap? Because I knew that I'd get a way higher contract rate today from the federal government than I would from the state. The state said that legislation. It's $82 now. Back then it was $64. So we negotiated, and it was really fast too. It only took us a couple months. We were able to negotiate with the state of Montana, the federal government, what we call like Operation Prisoner Swap, because we had to do it all in one day. And it was this massive convoy operation. And long story short, we got 50 more federal inmates, which brought us to 100 federal inmates, and we sent all 160 plus state inmates that we had. We sent them up to Shelby, and that did a lot of things for us. It opened up 130 open beds for us in our facility because we now could house everybody together because everybody in there was pre-trial. You know, one serving a prison sentence in there, and so we were able to do that. The other thing it did for us was it raised our revenues to help us pay the bills, so we didn't have to go to the taxpayer to pay the bills in the facility. So it worked out really well. It is a massive undertaking. It still to this day requires a lot of attention. It's dealing with the federal government now. So there's that. I'm not going to say there's not just as much bureaucracy in the state government, but it's, it can be a heavy lift in most days. But it's important kind of everyone understands that moving forward. One other thing that we worked really hard on was we secured probably the largest historical raises for detention officers. A lot of that happened during the COVID timeframe. To this day, they're the highest paid in the state of Montana. We introduced kind of mental health programming not only to the jail but also to the detention side, critical incident debriefings, and we kind of have a program built now. I'll talk about that more here in a little bit as I wrap up, but that's something else that we introduced as well. We started the county's first ever online jail roster. Prior to me being sheriff, they didn't have a jail roster, and that made a lot of family and loved ones kind of scared because they would be looking for a loved one, kind of like when Ron lost his wife, Not that you would have to find her on the jail roster, but some families, that's a thing. And so, it's a resource for the community to know, because we're obviously dealing with sometimes people suffering from addiction and mental health issues, and some place they can check. So that was a huge success. We have almost completely overhauled most of the jail. A lot of that's due to the hard work of our command team and our undersheriff, and we have worked really hard at securing new locks. When I first started as your sheriff, we had these locks, and no lie, they were called Folgers locks, like the coffee. Now here's the irony to what I'm about to tell you. When the inmates would get their coffee, they come in aluminum foil. So they would take their coffee aluminum foil thing, and the detention officer would slam the door, they'd stick it in there, and then they could pop the door. So there were Folgers locks defeated by a coffee piece of foil, which I was obviously wrong. We worked really hard and came up with a capital improvement plan. It's not done. It will be done for a while. But we were replacing the entire facility with a far better lock to make sure that our inmates are safe, detention officers are safe, and we don't have riots and fights and whatnot. We had to overhaul our entire lock system at the jail. When I started, they had these little turn knobs that open and close the doors. It's funny, I wish we still had them.